in chapter 2 shows how Korean women were recruited as comfort women and what sociological factors made them like that. After interviewing with some Korean survivors, so explained they chose to leave home voluntarily to avoid unhappy patriarchal oppression and related gender-based mistreatment instead of having been drafted by the Japanese military, which our country have believed till now. But somehow some of them changed their narratives or kept silence for welfare support money.
So said that not receiving any education was the main cause of their harm, and they left home eagerly and fearlessly and wanted to live, work as independent, educated person in a modern industrializing society. Also said about 4 different kinds of truth which was introduced by TRC: factual truth, personal or narrative truth, social or dialogue truth, healing or restorative truth. These 3 truths, except for factual truth, are all remarkable victim-centered. Victims were given a chance to narrate the truth from their point of view.
My name is Heather.
Hello.
So, based on those perceptions, she showed that Korean survivors devised their original testimonial relatives to imaginative statement of having been dragged away by the Japanese military, or some kept their silence out of fear of the cancellation of their welfare support money, even though their original testimonial narratives were not like that.
Your sentence is too long. But you can keep the sentences shorter. So instead of saying comma or, you can do like semicolon. So some kept their silence out of fear of cancellation of welfare checks, even though their original testimonials did not fit the dominant paradigm. Okay. One more paragraph.
I agree that violence against women are human right, and that colonial Korea was one of the main sociological factors that pushed some of Korean young women voluntarily leave home, and their collective suffering and military comfort stations should be recognized with a shared goal of preventing violence against women.
Young-hee Kim? But I think it is not right to conclude like this, because a lot of Korean comfort women were dead or killed, and there were little documents about these war crimes since Japan destroyed most of them. Also, this issue had been buried for several decades because of Korean patriarchal environment and survivors' shame. We can't know the truth anymore and can't solve this issue objectively since comfort women keep alive. What we can do is we just try not to let it happen again in future.
Objectively, since comfort women keep alive.
Because it doesn't make besides of action, because government can do it basically, but in this case government should follow to listen to the survivors.
Okay.
So the government cannot decide alone. So they need to make agreements with them, but it's very clear that what the survivors and the activists want different things.
Okay.
So even though they are not, their story is not true, we cannot prove them because we don't have any evidence tied to the story.
Well, we do have a lot of written evidence. So all the women, so about 200 and about something like 250 women came out, and many of them they wrote their narrative. But in chapter 2, time.
Well, some
Right.
only
Some women
under
change.
in chapter 2 only 5.
Right. So those were because she interviewed those 5 women,
Yeah.
and then because not that many women came out, only like 200, right?
But
And
many
then
of them were dead or killed by police. I saw that.
but also many women they just don't come out. So probably most women didn't come out. And then of the women who did come out, some changed the narrative, and some kept the narrative. And so there was a split. Some people said that I was kidnapped. Some people said I was not kidnapped. So as scholars, we want to know what happened, because there's 2 separate issues: what happened and what should we do about it. Okay. And so I tell people those are 2 separate issues. We should kind of keep separate.
But
And so the what? Against or for? Against what? I don't think.
It's very.
Why do you think
It's
she?
not right to just conclude this on interviewing the 5.
She interviewed a lot of
A
people.
lot, but
Right.
in the chapter 2 only 5 stories.
I know.
Sure.
I know, but that's because even with 5 stories, that's chapter 2. If you want to read more stories, you have to read chapters 3 to 6, and they all have like different stories.
Anyway, even though she interviewed all the women who came out, but it's not all.
I know.
A lot of couple women were there, but
Right.
not
She agrees with you.
a lot.
Yeah, she agrees with you. That's why she says that it's not black and white; it's very gray.
But
Because
she's not neutral, I thought.
in what? Well, I think she's partly reacting.
And in other books and documents, I saw a lot of evidence, and actually, this issue came out when Japanese woman politician
Mhm.
this issue, and before that, a Japanese professor found some evidence in Japanese library.
Mhm.
So this issue came out.
Oh, I agree with that.
He found the document Japanese collected Korean woman.
Well, I think the reason why we're studying this is because we're kind of curious, and The Comfort Woman is considered the book that we're reading is considered the best book in the English language. It was actually praised by Bruce Cummings. Have you heard of Bruce Cummings? He's a very famous historian from the University of Chicago. He's considered very leftist. But both leftists and conservatives in the United States praise The Comfort Woman because they said it was the most exhaustive, it's the most research-based. And she tried to be very objective. And
But
then,
I heard the Japanese professor found the document which collected woman. But he found it in the library, very old library, and a lot of books were there. Maybe nobody could find this book. He lived there in the
Sure.
library for several months, so he found it. So this issue.
well, if you read especially chapter 1 and later chapters, the information was there, but people only became really interested in it. I think especially since the 80s and 90s, because before the 80s, in chapter 6 we read about how the Korean Army also set up comfort stations. So before the 1990s, people thought it's not a big deal. Japanese Army used comfort women, Korean women used comfort women. Probably, we can imagine that maybe Park Chung-hee used comfort women because he was a soldier in the Japanese Army too. And so in the old days, people thought, yes, the women suffered, but it's not a major violation of human rights because poor women were always used that way. And then it was only after 1990s people thought that, oh, this is a serious issue, we should investigate. And so it was because thinking changed, Tagubanchi thinking changed, people began to investigate this more seriously. And so the evidence was always there. It's only since the 80s and 90s that people start to investigate seriously. Anyway, that's number one. And number two is that I got a. So we have a lot of evidence that the Japanese government, they ran the comfort women stations, and then we also have evidence from Indonesia, from the Japanese soldiers and officers that some of them they took the women forcibly. But we don't have evidence from we have evidence from Indonesia. So the officers were persecuted, one was executed, but we don't have evidence yet from the Korean side. So because if I kidnap you, we need evidence from who? You have to say that you were kidnapped, and then what? And then you also need evidence that I kidnapped you. Do you understand? So if such an event happened, then you should get evidence from both Korea and also from Japan. And so, but right now we have some narrative evidence. These women who say they were kidnapped, but we do not yet have evidence from the Japanese side that any Japanese soldiers went there, that 여자's house in the middle of the night to kidnap her. 그런 evidence는 아직 없어.
없을 거예요.
근데
내가 나한테
근데 다른 나라는 있어.
근데 일본은 안 하고.
No, I'm saying 그거 일본에는 they went to like China, Indonesia. So like in those places, Japanese government, so people found evidence, and also many Japanese soldiers confessed that this is what we did. But in Korea, the only person who said that I kidnapped Korean women was Yoshida, and he retracted. He didn't retract, but the first what? Right, but Kono, that's the reason why Kono.
This issue for 6 months or 1 year, and after that they apologized for the first period.
Okay. Don't be late, but we still love you.
Even though it's not physical, but still it's mental possibility. They admit they were mental possibility. So they apologized for that.
That might be true, sure. The reason why Kono's statement is kind of controversial today is because it was done in like 1992, and then Kono's statement was partly based on Yoshida's statement, the guy who later turned out to be false. That's why the current government is saying that we need to, they want the United Nations to kind of revise their statement because of what happened with Yoshida. Anyway, but the bottom line is that there's all these competing narratives, and so if you want, the question is, I want Japan to apologize too, but then to persuade them to apologize, you have to persuade them to trust the evidence. To trust, you have to tell them, you have to trust that what you did was wrong, and that, we need to make it better. Okay? But right now, there's many Japanese people who think that because so many people lie, I don't know who to trust. And so there's this real reluctance, number one. And so, anyway, so I think people like me and Sarah, I think, we just want many governments to apologize. So I think it would be easier to get the Japanese government to apologize if they do a joint apology with Korean government, saying that we both ran comfort stations, and whether or not women were forcibly taken, they suffered a lot, during and afterwards because they were rejected by society. And because of that, we need to, offer some recognition and compensation. So I think if both governments did that, then I think it would be politically possible. But if Korea only asks Japanese government to do that, then it's politically impossible because they feel that they're just being attacked. So that's why I say those are two separate issues: what to do versus what happened. Okay. Anyway, don't forget to do you need to do the stand-up sheet later. And just say I was late. Okay. All right. Do you have something to say? Oh, you went to the museum, right? Can you share and also email? Can you email us your experience? Okay. So tell us about what you learned. Okay, when you went to the museum, did you like it? Was it a good experience?
But it was a good experience. Also, really good side.
Okay.
Good side because for me, I really felt uncomfortable to be in front of
Can you
those women.
okay?
It was a good experience, and also sad because I really felt uncomfortable and sorry. I don't know why, but I felt sorry for those women who live that bad experience during the imperial during the colonial Korean. But we didn't learn anything new because we already read about especially me, I already read about comfort woman. So it was just a place to remind and a place to see by myself how they live after that experience. Yeah.
Did you feel it was very factual and objective, or did you feel there was some kind of bias?
Most of them was objective, I think, because what they want now is just that Japanese apologize, and then we can make sure that in the future that this kind of situation will not happen anymore. But
And did all that time when you say they were kidnapped by Japanese soldiers, or did you mention that?
I don't remember that part. We only one of them told us about her story, and she wasn't kidnapped. She wasn't kidnapped.
Did you talk about how she got to the conversation?
As most of them by a Korean who came and told them that if they want to get a job, they can have a job in a factory. Then
In the book or at the museum?
at the museum, of course. And then we know already what happened.
That's interesting.
But only
I think in Heather's group they said that grandmother said they were kidnapped, right? 3 of them said that?
Not all of them. Not all of them. Like the subject has changed again as well. Some grandma said about that, but others didn't. Like some people talked about like how the life was like, in the comfort station, or some women talked about like their life after the World War, So it was kind of mixed. So I just connected with this whole thing.
That's fine. Anyway, I actually emailed Sarah just to get her take. And then she emailed me back because you're all budding scholars, right? So I want you to like do research, read good books, and also connect with other scholars, okay? To see like, are you sure you're right? Or, Kelly, what do you think about this? Okay. And so I emailed her about, and I gave them like your film, and I gave them like your experiences, okay? So I want you to hurry up and email us so we can share your experiences with Sarah Soul, okay? All right, I'll read this for you. Dear Dr. E, I'm not surprised to hear from you that activists for 일본군 위안부 seem to have no connection with activists for 미군 위안부. As I discussed in my book, when the redress movement began in the early 1990s, the former means the 일본 위안부, chose to use the term 정신대 to refer to the wartime comfort women in order to symbolically set them apart from the 미군 위안부. Okay? So they decided to use a different term. You understand, Albert? Okay. I'm glad to hear that your students found my book helpful as they try to understand the complicated historical phenomena of the comfort women and the contemporary redress politics. So her key theme is that this is a very complicated issue, not black and white. And the funny thing is, she said that since my book is published in English, it has had little impact among Korean academics and media, because maybe I guess her impression is that a lot of professors and media, they study hard. They study really hard in English to become professors in media, and then they stop reading English. And so once they become professors in media, they just don't read English books anymore. I'm not saying all professors, but I don't know. You think maybe like 80% or 90%? Not a lot. Okay? So they stop reading English books, so they don't read Sarah So's book. Okay. And she said that it would be nice if my book gets discovered by a publisher someday in the future. For now, I think the anti-Japan nationalist paradigm is too solidly ensconced in Korean society for any publisher to venture into a risky project like translating my book into Korean. She says it's not going to happen now. It's too controversial. I hope you'll be able to research more about the nationalist narratives. Meanwhile, have a happy Thanksgiving. Yay! Thanksgiving's tomorrow. Okay? So she wanted to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. This is a personal message from Sarah to you. Okay? But we're not applying to her school. She teaches at San Francisco State. It's like, I wish she taught at Texas State. Then it'd be perfect for Heather. Then we have like we're like buddies. Help me into your PhD program. The only version's in English. This is yes. She's perfectly Korean. But No, because why doesn't she No, the problem is not translating. The problem is getting somebody to publish it. Because yeah, she can translate it. She says she cannot find publisher. Right. I don't know. I think she might have. I'm not sure how hard she tried, but usually publishers, if they like your book, they will contact you. But I think my impression is that, because of the anti-Japanese paradigm, if you do not fit that paradigm, they will not publish your book. Anyway, but her book was published by University of Chicago. Okay, it's a really famous press. Let me double check. Before you came, I mentioned how it was published by a very famous press, and it was praised by people like Bruce Cummings, okay, who's a very famous leftist historian. Okay, Comfort Woman, so I don't like, University of Chicago. Oh, that's my university. Woohoo! Yes. So that means, only the top scholars can publish there. I don't think any Hanyang professor has published at the University of Chicago. It's extremely rare. And then, so, you understand, right? So, if you publish at the University of Chicago Press, that means you're like the top in your field. But even a top book like that, it's not going to be published. She doesn't. But at least her impression right now is that it won't be accepted by publishers yet, because they're not ready yet. But times change. I remember like in the old days, any book that supported North Korea was not accepted. But now we see more books that, well, at least in English. But at least I hear many academics who are more sympathetic to North Korea. Okay, so I think they're professors. They must publish somewhere. Okay, I think they have the opposite problem. They only publish in Korean, so nobody reads them except like other crazy professors. Okay, that's why you need to do good research. Publish in Korean and English. Okay, and if you publish in English, that means all the smart people read your book. So all the international academics who study comfort women read her book. The only people who hasn't read her book are people who don't read English.
Do you know the Japanese response feedback on the book? How about in Japan? This book was sensational or famous?
I don't know, but then like I don't know. But then a lot of Japanese people don't read English either. I think all the smart people know this book, but I think a lot of the regular Japanese and regular Koreans are kind of like drama. So Koreans are like, the women were kidnapped. And a lot of the Japanese are like, they were not kidnapped. They were like, they're just trying to protect Japanese. So that's public discourse, but you have really smart academic discourse understands that the situation is much more complicated. So smart people like Asahi Shingo. So Asahi Shingo, they said that we researched the issue. We don't have any evidence that women were kidnapped in Korea. At the same time, they suffered a lot. So governments still should apologize. So that is a more nuanced view. That's more like Sarasota. And so they would be that's actually more persuasive than saying Japanese government is evil, they should apologize. The problem is that Asahi Shimbun, they published Yoshida, the guy who was false, so it undermined their credibility. And so right now, the Japanese government is not listening to Asahi Shimbun, they're just asking Asahi Shimbun, you should apologize. And so right now, the situation is not good. It's almost like Israeli Palestine, where it's like they don't. There's the people who support peace has lost credibility, and so we need to find a kind of a new. We have to wait for the right political moment to promote the peace. I think it's not getting anything. Israel, Palestine, Iran. We always have to find that right political moment, and then we can do it. Alright, that sounds good. Okay, anything else? Okay, alright. Well, okay, that's fine. But we had good discussion. Alright, now I want to do I want to go back to Africa. Alright. Oh, be proud. Anyway, next week we'll be reading the LGBT. It's going to come out in Pacific Affairs. This might be the first article published by a female professor in Public Affairs, Pacific Affairs. It's published by University of British Columbia. So anyway, she had her work hard, so she's mentioned. And we're also going to write another article for the 8 p.m. So I think we'll mention your name in the memo too. Okay. All right. Now, to celebrate, we need she's got a good writing sample. Okay. So let's discuss Africa. So she revised since 어디까지 했지? Okay, resources, right?
아니 그거 I changed the order.
Okay. So start religion.
Yeah, maybe. But you did that resources.
Okay. Africa possesses.
Then you did it.
Okay. All right, then let's go.
You didn't do the
Okay, let's do religion. Okay. Let's read one by one. Okay. Can you? Okay, Miss Kim. Oh, okay. Can you give to Miss Heather? Okay, the society.
The religion. The society fragmented by religion has a much higher possibility of severe conflicts than one split by resources or language. An identity formed by religion is absolutely unchangeable, and this characteristic worsens conflicts.
Stop. Who said absolutely? Was it your word or just from the author?
I don't know. I can't remember all of that.
In social science, we learned that nothing is absolute. Okay, an identity formed by religion is unlikely to change. Okay,
Okay.
Go on, and this.
And this characteristic works in conflicts. Religion also has huge impacts on one's identity, forming one's view of the world as a social network. Subsequently, when diverse
This is redundant. Just get rid of this one thing.
okay.
Shapes, okay? Shapes. One's identity.
아니 파트 다른 파트는 없어요.
View of the
저런
world.
거
And her social networks. Okay? So everybody learn, okay? Alright.
So
Subsequently,
Subsequently, when diverse religious groups coexist in one country, numerous battles arise because of religious and identity conflicts between people with distinctive cultures. 어떻게 하면 막지? 너무 짧은 거 같아서 저러다가
right, between different groups, okay?
Okay.
If there's any sentence that's not necessary, delete it, okay? Because the previous sentence is like religion is like your identity, right? And it makes conflicts worsen. It's the same thing as this, okay? What you said here. Okay. All right, Albert,
There were 42 trade-related civil wars from 1940 to 2000 in the world.
Stop. Try never to use their word, okay? So you can just say the world experience 42 pre-release war conflicts. And since you did past tense experience, keep it past tense. You understand? Okay. And fights between
And
Islam
fight-
and other religions
Sure.
took up 81%. Okay. The creed-related conflicts, right? Yeah. Okay. You see what I did? The world experienced 42 civil wars, of which 81% were fights between Islam and other religions. Nice, more concise.
Additionally, the wars triggered by religion conflicts resulted in more number of casualties and continued longer, which suggests make wars more destructive than other causes.
Result in war. Disparities result in greater numbers of casualties and continue longer. You want to do short and then long, okay? So the wars lasted longer and resulted in caused more casualty. Other wars. Okay. So the point is that you always want to do short first and then long. Okay? The soya, go on.
The Soya maintains that religion-related conflicts are more prone to occur in one particular religion, primarily Islam and Catholic. It's pervasive in the nation.
Stop. Oh, okay. More prone to occur when one religion. Okay. E.g., any religion, right? to do or because it's one, right? It's singular. Especially pervasive in a nation. You can make this verb, pervades a nation. Okay. Sudan is the best example. 70% of Sudanese people believe in Islam, followed by Christianity and indigenous religions. Muslim people dominate northern Sudan, and other people, including Christians, reside. You don't have to repeat Sudan again. Reside in the south. The first and second Sudanese civil wars. There's plural. Okay, began when Muslim politicians from the north conquered the government, captured would be better. Captured the government and Congress. Isn't Congress and government the same thing? Are you talking about the presidency? Then just say government. Okay, people will get confused. Why are you saying government and Congress? The politicians propelled the Islamization of the country and replaced Southern Christians. Okay.
I think that this part should be in the past tense, but it's now Sudanese two countries because of this problem. There is Sudan,
Okay.
is one Muslim.
Sure. Yeah. And this is all past tense. The civil wars initiated by religious heterogeneity was gradually accelerated with battles over oil resources and property owner disputes. Okay. So you're saying this all happened in the past, right?
It's the same situation.
Okay, but it's still the same situation. Okay. Anyway, resources, blah blah blah. You said okay. You said we fixed this, right? Okay. Next is low economy and not low economy. Maybe weak economy. Okay. And political instability. Failures in economic and political development are main origins of internal wars in Africa. Because you just say like religion was a main cause. Okay? Then just say our
But I think every scholar has
okay. Then you would just say also contribute. What? Because when you read a writing sample, you need your voice. What do you think is the most important cause? Is it religion, or is it these other things? Okay. Then we might have to.
but it's really hard to use everything as it combined, it's really related, so it's really hard to say.
Then be more tentative. Then you can say the society fragmented by religion may experience higher possibility of severe conflict. Okay? You see? Then now you're more tentative. You're saying this may be true, but we're not quite sure yet. So failures in economic and political development also contribute to internal wars also in Africa, especially GDP per capita. It's better to say per capita GDP. Okay? Per capita GDP has a strong correlation with civil wars. Okay? In countries with higher GDP, capita GDP. Civil wars are less likely to arise. What? 어디? GDP should always be capitalized. No, per capita does not need to be capitalized.
L를 쓰다가 L을 빠져서 L을 빠지고 X에도 capitalized per capita, but it's higher per capita capital.
Oh.
그래서 I was kind of confused.
Okay, then say that. That's wrong. Your English is bad. Per capita GDP, civil wars are less likely to arise. And more quickly. Okay? 더 깨끗하지? Low-income countries overwhelmingly experience civil wars. What do I mean overwhelmingly? They all experience civil wars? Okay? But this is the opposite of the first sentence, so it's not necessary. Okay? So you understand, right? High per capita, less wars, right? So you don't have to say high capita, less wars. High GDP, less wars. Low GDP, more wars. Just the first statement is fine. Second, 필요 없어. You understand? It's redundant. Okay? Just say unfortunately. Okay. Next week, Young-hee, you email me essay. You can correct everything. Okay? What? You can? Okay. Okay. Well, when you're ready, email me. I was waiting like, where's Young-hee's paper? I couldn't correct your paper because it was in Hangul. It's like, don't send me Hangul, only MS Word, okay? Because Hangul doesn't have the track change. Only MS Word does. Right? Okay. Maybe he said, no more red on my paper. Okay. He's becoming too Korean, or he doesn't want any, no 고쳐, no correction. Unfortunately, African nations record lower income compared to other developing countries. In other developing countries. If you say other developing countries, you don't need in the world. We're only talking about Earth, not Mars, right? Right. Because I just saw, Because I just saw John Carter on Mars. Mars Yongha. Okay, anyway, so they have other countries there too. Imagination. African nations record lower incomes than other developing countries. Due to such low income, due to low family income, is it absent or weak? Okay. What's a good word? You want to say absence over, weak, or just deficient? Wow, you're from Africa. How would you describe your educational system?
Low.
Okay. Let's just say weak. Okay. Yeah. I didn't go to any school. He doesn't live in the jungle. Maybe a better, like undeveloped. Okay, less developed. Systems, afternoon. You don't need for a living. Okay. General, able to find decent jobs and escape socioeconomic status. Okay? So it's hard for them to escape. This bronze goes. Right. So they want to escape. So that's why they join the rebels. For the reason they have nothing to lose, worsening the danger of battles within the nation. Meanwhile, the rebellions can benefit. What do you mean they can? Oh, okay. Rebellions can benefit is kind of vague. Just say, meanwhile, insurgents can recruit a considerable number of soldiers at low cost. And the number of private armed forces, you don't want to say naturally, just say grows in Africa, okay? You don't want to say meanwhile, therefore, put that one in. See? They're growing. Okay. African countries with low incomes cannot impose taxes on citizens. The deficiency in taxation undesirably influences national income, the nation's defense system. 이거는 필요 없고. Cannot impose much taxes on their citizens. Okay. The lack of revenue, okay, weakens the national defense, okay, and leaves the country vulnerable to insurgent attacks. Ghana. Ooh, that's Sam Ochiri. Okay, another. Ghana and Uganda. So it's not just a candy bar, it's a real country. Ghana and Uganda, for example, managed to collect only 6% of national income through taxation, and underwent a number of civil wars in the 1980s. Other richer OECD nations, on the contrary, acquired 40% of income with taxation, and rarely experienced wars in their boundaries. Okay. Okay. That's fine. Because you can do both. 지금도 war 없으면.
아니, I thought that 1980s.
Oh, in the 1980s?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mentioned the
Okay. That's fine. Following, you never do this. Okay? You can do it in parentheses, but not outside. Nations at a low level of democracy and in authoritarian regimes. Isn't authoritarian regimes and low level of democracy the same thing, or is it different things?
I think it's different. What do you think? Even though they have a Congress represented,
Okay.
the level of democracy can be lower. But
Authoritarian
some countries have this authoritarian
or weak. Then let's say this. With authoritarian governments or weak authoritarian institutions, okay? Okay? Are more likely to experience civil wars. the non-democratic government has suppressed overall political freedom and powerless, making people hostile against regimes. This turns people against the regimes. Into supporting insurgents. In addition, internal conflict devastated most governments have used invest in the financial sector for economic development. Anyway, this sounds like a literature review, but maybe like in the future, especially grad students, I want you to like don't just tell me these are the important factors. Tell me what do you think is the most important factor, and then give me your evidence. Okay. The problems of civil wars. Okay. Civil wars critically damage a society culturally, politically, and economically. Don't be so tired. We'll do 10 more minutes, and then we'll take a break. Okay. People were killed due to violence and disease. This is present tense, right? So keep this present tense too. People are killed. A variety of cultures are perished since the majority of ethnic groups slaughter ethnic minorities. I'm not sure if it's majority. Just say ethnic groups. Since major ethnic groups often large ethnic groups often slaughter ethnic minorities. Members, not all, but members of large ethnic groups often slaughter ethnic minorities and destroy their cultures. The national security is this is also necessary. Sexual crimes rise rapidly and consider many have to leave their homes. Civil wars can also lead to international intervention, which prevent the wars from ending. Okay, casualties. Civil wars kill people, but the number of war death is tough to explore since analyze. Okay? Since wide discrepancy was reported by different war cases. What do you mean war cases? Like different reports?
There are different words there. If you spell it out, it will be one piece.
Then, but why is it the number of war deaths is tough to analyze? Let's say you have 5 cases and you know the exact numbers for each case. Is that what you
A scholar has a different reason to study.
Okay.
And there is a lot of different.
Okay, so it results from different scholars. Okay. Okay.
How did you analyze all, like, full number of that?
Well, if you have a good study, for example, like we know, so like the police in the United States, we have very good data on the number of people who are murdered, okay, homicide, okay, because they have, because all dead bodies have to be processed, okay.
You're talking about right now, but civil wars happened before.
Oh, I know. So you just have to say that, but the number of war deaths is tough to analyze since since different sources report different figures. Okay. You just say you have to. Cause I just don't know what this sentence means. Okay. Because of the discrepancy. Okay.
I mean, if people are not disabilities or they can they were that
Because there's a possibility people were dead in other countries. I mean, you can imagine that. Or other things.
That's fine, but analysts differentiate. Okay. Analysts categorize. Okay. That's from or just we need to distinguish death from direct violence or indirect consequences, okay? Or indirect causes. Do you see? So these are causes, not consequences. Such as communicable disease, evacuation, and malnutrition. Okay? Battle deaths are defined as death including not only civilian but also military fatalities resulting from military operations. However, battle deaths are part of total war deaths for many reasons. From military operations, okay? Okay, war deaths can also include the causes of war-related death. Can also include crime, unorganized violence, disease, destroyed public health. Also trigger casualty. No, you don't need this. Okay. If you want to do casualties, then you can say war-related casualties can also come from crime. Okay? During times of conflict. Okay? You can just say death of frontier. The research total death in 2002 illustrates that nearly 1.55 million people were dead in battle. Documents nearly 1.5 million battle death in Africa between 1960 and 2002. data includes the casualties of African casualties of civil wars. Were higher than in other regions. The average number was compared to 1,500 to 2,700. In other regions. Furthermore, Murano enacted out of it directly for the dead. After the conflict ends. Okay. Anyway, we can do the rest later or at home. This game boring. Okay, thank you. Was this helpful?